Let me ask you something. What genre is Dhurandhar? There was this moment in the theatre while watching Dhurandhar that made me realize something. I'm no longer watching a pure spy espionage movie. At the 54-minute mark of Dhurandhar, the Rahman Baloch gang starts killing the Babu Dakat gang in what seems straight out of a gangster genre movie. And the movie takes a turn from being a spy espionage genre movie here onto a full gangster power struggle. And my suspicion about Dhurandhar being a gangster movie was only confirmed when the actor of one of the Khanani brothers talked about how this scene was heavily inspired from The Godfather.
गॉडफादर का जो एक सीक्वेंस था जब टोनी का बेटा बच्चा पैदा होता है और वो चर्च में है और बैप्टिस्ट सिस्टम से तरीके से वो जो है सब निभाया जा रहा है और उधर पहले से ऑर्डर हो चुका है और फिर वहाँ दिखा रहे हैं यहाँ पर मंत्र कहीं बोल रहे हैं बच्चे के मुंह में उधर दिखाया कि उधर एक मर्डर हो रहा है.
But I don't think the movie just takes a few scenes from a movie like The Godfather. I think it is one of the most brilliant examples of taking story structure of two completely different genres and blending them into one to revive genre stagnation and giving the audience something entirely new. So let's start at the beginning. The first act of Dhurandhar makes us believe that we are watching a spy espionage genre movie. Another example of a really good spy espionage genre movie would be a movie like Razi. And these movies usually follow a particular story structure of 5 major story beats. In Act 1, we assess the threat that is emerging to national security. We usually meet our protagonist or their handler and receive a mission briefing of what has to be done to prevent this threat. Act 2 usually follows the protagonist as they infiltrate the target and form their hidden surveillance network. The fourth beat here is usually discovery of the real threat that is bigger than originally imagined. And the fifth beat is the final operation to stop that threat that usually ends in the protagonist returning home or dying. Gangster genre films, on the other hand, follow a completely different structure. The first major beat starts with the protagonist entering the world of crime. Beat 2 is usually started by them committing their first crime or power move that puts them on the radar. This is followed by expansion of territory and influence where the protagonist starts expanding their empire. The fourth beat usually involves betrayal or an internal fracture that destabilizes the empire that has been built so far, which starts the final story beat of downfall or mythical legacy, where the protagonist either finally dies or loses their power or gets caught or becomes a mythical legend to be feared if he succeeds. So now that we know how both of these genre conventions work, let's see how Dhurandhar blends them together. In Act 1, we are introduced to the threat to the national security. This acts as the first story beat of the spy genre. We establish the threats and figure out what we have to do to stop them. The second beat is the mission assignment, which comes in the form of voiceover here, and we are never shown the actual mission assignment, but we still understand what has to happen next. So here's where things get interesting. The story overlaps the third beat of the spy genre and the first beat of the gangster genre together. Our protagonist's entry into the underworld is the same as the infiltration beat. And here's where the movie switches genres and even protagonists. See, a gangster genre movie actually has a protagonist and an antagonist, the crime boss and the policeman meant to catch him. So for the gangster storyline, we actually now have 2 people we are meant to follow, Rahman Dakat and SP Chaudhry Aslam. But since we are also following the spy genre storyline, now we have 2 protagonists with Hamza. This creates one of the most interesting genre blend stories as we move into the second beat of the gangster story genre. Hamza makes his first power move that puts him on everyone's radar as a big player and enters the third beat where he helps Rahman expand his empire. The interesting part here is how both storylines actually have different protagonists. The gangster genre storyline treats Rahman Dakat not as an antagonist of the story, but as a secondary protagonist until we enter the fourth beat of the spy genre, the reveal of the real conspiracy.
हालांकि सुनने में यह आया कि हाल ही में इन्हें हिंदुस्तानी 500 और 1000 की नोट छापने की प्लेट मिली है.
This beat usually involves a spy learning of the real threat to his country and how the situation is far bigger than they originally anticipated. But we soon pivot here into the fourth beat of the gangster genre with betrayal and internal conflict as we learn the cook poisoned Faisal. The fourth beat of the gangster story is where the protagonist gets attacked from multiple sides, including rival gangs and the police. The final betrayal is often what kicks the movie into the final act with the downfall of the protagonist or his success. But because there are 2 protagonists of this story, Dhar writes Rahman Dakat's downfall as the climax of the movie. There's a reason Dhurandhar works despite being one half of an entire story. It's because its ending is satisfying. And the reason for that is it doesn't end the spy espionage story, but it does end the final act of Rahman Diqait's story while hitting all the 5 beats of the gangster movie genre. The entire movie could have been told from Hamza's perspective and keeping Rahman's storyline in the background. But by making the story equally important and hitting all the beats of the story structure, it elevates the story into one of the most unique and powerful examples of genre mixing, and also gives the audience a satisfying ending while keeping us hungry for the second movie. The genre blend also makes the movie extremely rewatchable, as we get weaved not into the story beats of one movie, but rather 2 movies in a way we haven't seen before. A lot of people talk about why Dhurandhar is so fresh and innovative, and a lot of those people point at the realism and grittiness of the movie. But we already have those things in other movies. I think most people overlook how much power story structure has, and how new something can feel just by taking already existing genre tropes and mixing them in a way never seen before or thought possible.